exactly how to approach paper one strategically, how to use the right format, maintaining the correct tone, and structure your responses in a way that helps you access the top mark bands. So remember that scoring 7 is not about writing more and more. It's about writing smartly. So as you know that in IBDP, Spanish has 3 levels. One is Spanish ab initio, Spanish BSL, and Spanish BHL. So I'll be talking about Spanish ab initio and Spanish BSL for paper 1. So in Spanish ab initio, it is for the beginners level, wherein one who has no prior knowledge of Spanish, so they choose this option for their board exams for the whole 2 years. So I'll take you through what is Spanish ab initio, what are its structures, how it is assessed, assessment criteria, and everything. So first, let's go syllabus content. So in Spanish B or Spanish ab initio, there are 5 prescribed themes. These are common for all the 3 levels. So one is identities, unit 1 is identities, 2 is experiencias or experiences, then 3 is human ingenuity or ingenio humano, then social organization, and the last one is sharing the planet. So these 5 themes, you would be getting questions for paper 1 and paper 2 from all these 5 themes. These are the themes that you need to be master about. So if you want to follow any books, you can go that you can go for IBDP book by Oxford. So the writers are, this is the book. If you can see the screen, if you can see me, this is the book that you can refer. It's a very nice one, and it has all the 5 themes that you can study. It has reading comprehensions, listening, and also topics for your paper 1. If you want, I can share this book with all of you, the name of the book and the author. So now let's go through all the prescribed topics bit by bit from identities and all those themes. So under identities, you'll have your personal attributes, personal relationships, eating and drinking, and physical well-being. So from experiences, you'll get questions about your daily routine or your leisure activities, holidays, festivals, and celebrations. And for possible questions, you can refer to the right hand side of the column. And then when you go for this third unit, that is human ingenuity, you can study about transport, entertainment, media, and technology. For the fourth unit, that is social organization, neighborhood comes first, education, the workplace, and social issues. These are the 4 subtopics covered under social organization, followed by possible questions that you can see in the right-hand side of the column. Then the last unit is sharing the planet. It's one of my favorite, I would say. So here, the subtopics and the questions that can come from this unit would be based on global issues, the environment like pollution, physical geography, and also climate. And you can refer these in your IBDP guide. So if you go through the guide, then definitely it will be very fruitful for you. And then followed by that, what you can see is from the next slide, how there are different assessment components. As you know that the whole paper would be for 2 hours and 45 minutes. And you have in your IBDP board examinations, you have paper 1, paper 2, and individual oral assessment. So individual oral assessment, you must have all appeared for that. And then now you are left with paper 1 and paper 2. So paper 1 is for 1 hour. You will be given 1 hour to write, and this whole writing paper, like paper 1 and paper 2, carries 75% of weightage, because the rest 25%, it will be for your IO, individual oral assessment, which you would have already done by now. So in paper 1, the total mark is 30. How this 30 is divided? For Spanish ab initio, so there would be 2 written tasks, and each task you have to write within 70 to 150 words. I would suggest everyone not to exceed your word limit. please you have to write within 150 words. If you exceed word limit, what happens is that, so the examiner who's going to correct your paper would lose interest. So as I've already mentioned, that paper one is not about writing more. It is about how you write smartly within 150 words. So there would be two sections in your paper, section A and section B. So section A would have three prompts. That means three tasks. So out of these three tasks from section A, you have to attempt any one. And then that one task or one text type that you're going to attempt should be within 70 to 150 words, not more than that. Of course, it can extend till 10 or 20 words, but not beyond that. I would suggest you not to exceed your word limits. And out of all these three prompts, each prompt would be having three text types. So you have to read the questions very carefully and you have to check what to write and whom you are writing to and what is the purpose of your task. So based on that, you have to choose one from all the three options. So each prompt would be having three text type options. For example, there would be a prompt and you have to select if it is a blog or an article or an email writing. So you have to choose wisely. And then section B. Section B also would be having three prompts. And those three prompts would be having three text types, out of which you have to choose any one. The same, so the word limit is 70 to 150 words. And each text or each task would be carrying 15 marks. So you would be graded 15 in section A and 15 out of 15 section B. So all total 30 marks. So the final marks would be calculated out of 30. For example, if you would get 14 out of 15 in task A and from section B, 14 out of 15, then all total would be 28 out of 30. So you would be graded in that way. Yeah? Okay. So going ahead, how many text types are there for IBDP Spanish ab initios? So there are three text types. So one is personal texts, professional, and mass media. So if you can read guide, so these text types are clearly mentioned there. For example, for personal text, it's a blog, diary entry, email, invitation, journal entry, so personal letter, postcards, timetable, text messages, and social media postings like chat room. For professional text would also go for blog, for brochures, and then email writing, formal letters, interview. Then you can have your personal statement, questionnaire, and of course you would be having your like short stories like literature, then survey also. You can have mass media text would include your advertisements, article for your newsletter, magazine, blog, film, review writing, news report, pamphlet, podcasts. So all these come under mass media texts. So you have to choose wisely while writing your text. Okay. Based on the question, you have to see who is the audience to whom you are going to write. So based on that, you have to choose the text type. Okay. So now, how your writing would be marked? There are different criteria, three criteria. So one is criterion A, that is language. What does language have? So let's study this. So how successfully does the candidate command written language? Okay, how do you write? So the total marks is 6. So out of 6, there are different level descriptors. So based on your text, you would be graded in that way. For example, under language, you have the examiner checks to what extent is the vocabulary appropriate and varied. You must use varied vocabulary, not complex, but varied, okay, and appropriate. To what extent are the grammatical structures varied? So you have to use different grammatical structures, okay, but then it should be correct. To what extent does the accuracy of the language contribute to effective communication? So the language that you're using should be accurate. So if you are aiming for 5 to 6, then these are the following ones. I never tell my students, I never read 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. I always directly jump to 5 or 6, because I know if you follow the three strategies for language, definitely you're gonna end up in getting a 5 or 6 in the language category. So command of the language is effective and mostly accurate. Your vocabulary is appropriate to the task and varied. A variety of basic and more complex grammatical structure is used effectively, and language is mostly accurate. Occasional error do not interfere. You might have some error because we are human, but then it should be very minor. It should be minor. Should not be more than that. So if the error happens at times which interferes the communication, you will end up in getting 3 or 4. For getting 5 or 6, occasional error is okay, as it does not interfere your communication. Okay. And if we move to criteria B, that is your message. So once you read your prompt and once you are ready with your answer, you're gonna decide what message you are going to give to the audience. Okay. So how relevant are the ideas to the task? To what extent are ideas developed? And to what extent do the clarity and organization of your ideas contribute to the delivery of the message? So your ideas should be relevant, okay, developed and organized. So this carries 6 marks. Okay, so 6 and 6, 12 marks are gone. Okay, so criterion A has 6 marks, criterion B, message, has 6 marks in total. So if your task is fulfilled effectively, and if your ideas are relevant to the task and well developed, providing detailed and relevant examples, and if it is organized in a logical manner, supporting the delivery of the message, then definitely you would end up in getting 5 or 6. Okay. Then if we move ahead, the last one is criterion C, that is conceptual understanding. So here, once you read the text, okay, it is very wise of you to decide which text type are you going to choose. It carries 3 marks. By any chance, if your text, you have done excellent in language, you have done excellent in message, but the choice of text type is inappropriate to the task, then then you will end up in getting a 0. Not even 1, 2, or 3, a 0. So inappropriate text type means you will get 0 in criterion C. So for that, you have to think wisely. Who is the audience and what is the purpose of the text? Okay. Let's read what is there. To what extent is the choice of text type appropriate to the task? Okay. To what extent are registered and tone appropriate to the context, purpose, and audience of the task? To what extent does the response incorporate the conventions of the chosen text type? So if you are aiming to get a 3, so these are the following things that should be kept in mind. One is the choice of text type should be appropriate to the context, purpose, and audience. Okay. The register and tone are appropriate to the context. For example, if you're writing to the director of a school, you cannot use an informal tone. You have to use a formal tone. And if you're writing a letter to your friend, you can definitely use an informal tone. Okay. And never mix tu and usted in your Spanish paper 1. If you are writing in tu form, so the audience, then from the starting to the end, you must write in tu form, okay, in u form. And if you're writing in usted form, then from the starting of your text type to the end, you must always use usted. Please do not mix tu and usted or two forms of grammar. Okay, that's a request to everyone, because you would end up in getting less marks if you do that. So please be constant in writing either to or usted, and please be, if it is to a director or to the head of the school, or if you're writing in a magazine, or if you're writing in a newspaper article, then it must always be in usted form. Okay, every informal text type can be in to form. So let's move ahead. Okay, what I can do is, this is all about Spanish ab initio. I would go for Spanish BSL. So Spanish BSL also has the same theme, the same themes. That's identities, experiencias or experiences, human ingenuity, social organization, and sharing the planet. So here, the subtopics are a little different from Spanish ab initio. So under identities, we have different subtopics like lifestyles, health and well-being, beliefs and values, subcultures, language and identity. As standard level is higher than ab initio level, so what we can do is we have to focus more on complex grammar and vocabulary structure. All right, that is why the subtopics are little higher than ab initio. Under experiencias or experiences, so we have leisure activities, holidays and travel, life stories, rites of passage, customs and traditions, and migration. Human ingenuity, we have entertainment, artistic expressions, communication and media, technology and scientific innovations. Let's move ahead. Okay. Under social organization, we have social relationships, community, social engagement, education, the working world, and law and order. And the last has the environment, human rights, peace and conflict, equality, globalization, ethics, urban and rural environment. For some possible questions, you can definitely refer to the right-hand side of the column. How this is, let us now go ahead with the assessment outline for paper 1. For paper 1, as it is SL level, we have 1 hour 15 minutes. So the total external assessment, that is your board exam, would be for 3 hours, 15 minutes more than ab initio. Okay, so for paper 1 in ab initio, it was 1 hour. In SL, it is 1 hour 15 minutes. In ab initio, there were 2 texts. You have to attempt 2 texts. But in SL, you have to attempt just 1 text. All total, there would be 3 prompts followed by 3 text types for each prompts, wherein you have to write from 250 to 400 words. Okay, so the word limit is 250 to 400 words in Spanish BSL. In Spanish ab initio, it was 70 to 150 for each text type. Okay, so now it also carries 25% of your marks, and then followed by paper 2, which is your reading comprehension and listening comprehension for 45 minutes and 1 hour. So total it's of 3 hours, 1 hour 15, 45, and then 1 hour. Okay, so again, if I go to the text types, so in Spanish BSL, we have the same like personal, professional, and mass media texts. Under personal text, we have blog, diary entry, email, personal letter, and social media posting. For professional text, blog, email, essay writing, formal letter, questionnaire, report writing, which we do not have it in, we do not have it for Spanish ab initio. And in mass media texts, we have advertisements, article, blog, brochures, leaflet, interview, podcast, pamphlet, and also we have speech, some public commentary like reviews and all. Okay, so now let's check what are the external assessment criteria for Spanish BSL. For Spanish BSL, like ab initio, there are three: criterion A, B, and C. So criterion A, the same language, to check if the vocabulary is appropriate and varied or not. To what extent the grammatical structures are varied? Yes. As it is Spanish BSL, higher than ab initio, you must always use complex grammatical structures. Like you can use conditionals, subjunctives, and all past forms that has been taught to you. So, and then in criterion A language, the total mark is 12. In ab initio, it was 6, but here it is the double. It is 12. So, in order to get between 10 to 12, so your vocabulary should be appropriate to the task. It should be varied, and you must always use idiomatic expressions. Well, it's not necessary for ab initio people, but for SL level, you must always use idiomatic expressions, Spanish idiomatic expressions, to make your article or to make your text type look beautiful. Okay, you must always use it. And a variety of basic and more complex grammatical structure should always be used. Okay, so the language should be accurate, and of course minor, as said before, minor errors or in more complex grammatical structures do not interfere with communications. As it is an SL level, you must always use the correct forms of basic grammatical structure. It should not be incorrect. But little or minor errors in the complex grammatical structure that does not interfere your communication will definitely get you between 10 to 12. But I would ask you not to do that. It's better not to do that. Okay, if you make a habit of not making any errors in the complex grammatical structures, then you can definitely get 12 out of 12. And I have given 12 to my students as well. Those who are good in using idiomatic expressions, and also complex grammatical structures like conditionals, subjunctive in the correct form. So if we go to criterion B, that is message, the same, your ideas should be relevant, developed, and it should be well organized, and it should have clarity. So always remember, whenever you are writing a text, please use some real life examples, always. Okay, so real life and relevant examples. So for ideas, it should be relevant to the task, I repeat, fully developed, details and relevant examples, and also it should be structured. Okay, this can end up in getting 10 to 12 marks. The last one is criterion C. That is your conceptual understanding. The same, it depends on the choice of text type, your context, your purpose and audience of the text, and the response. You must answer to all the tasks that has been given in the prompt. Do not leave any task. If the prompt says you have to write the advantages, disadvantages, and also some suggestions for using social networking, you must not leave anyone. You should write about the advantages, disadvantages, and also give some suggestions for it. If you leave one, then you will lose mark in conceptual understanding. Okay, the total mark for conceptual understanding is 6. So all total it is 12, 12 and 6. 30 marks, one text. 200, 250 to 400 words. Okay, are we good enough? Okay, so now let's understand paper 1. As you know that paper 1 is not about writing correct Spanish. It's about responding to the task, because there are 3 criteria that you have to get the marks. You must always think about 3 key elements: text type, what are you writing, audience, who are you writing to, and the purpose of your writing. Why are you writing? Okay. So text type, these three decide. So you have to decide the format, the tone, and the vocabulary.
Can we show some examples also?
Yes, we can.
Hmm.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Okay, so regarding examples, what we can do is that I can share it with you. So and you can share it with the students. Will that be okay?
Yes, definitely. But through one example, if you can show the format, the vocabulary used, example of email, blog, like this, so that they get a clear idea.
Okay, all right. So I'll just check that and then first, okay, I'll just check that. I think I've put that in my there. So here we can like for scoring high, so we can use this method. Like peel method is a method called peel method, wherein to score 6 or 7 in paper one. So to write a clear, organized, and developed one, you can always use this method that which I always used in my classroom. So one is like peel. P stands for punto, as you know that in Spanish, punto means point. So your idea must be very clear when you're talking about an article or a blog. So whatever point you put into your text, it should always be clear and organized. So for example, like in an introduction, I would always suggest my students to have a very catchy introduction, because when the examiner goes through your text type or goes through your text, so if the introduction is very catchy, then it creates the first impression of your writing. I would definitely, and please do not write any vague answers. It should always be to the point. If the question is asking about advantages of social media, you must always write advantages of social media and do not vague your answers, please. Okay. And then the next E stands for explicación, which and explain. You have to explain your idea in a very detailed manner. Okay. Giving examples. For example, if the question comes about volunteerism, then you can give an example of your own, because as you are DP students, you must be part of CAS. So you can definitely use your CAS experience in your paper one writing. For example, you can write, okay, in my school, I was a part of one of the organizations that, and I volunteered in cleaning up the cities and cleaning up my school, cleaning up the sea nearby riverside. I was a part of river cleaning activity, and these are I was a part of blood donation camp. You can definitely use your CAS experience in voluntary activities. Okay, that can definitely add cherry to the cake. You know, give some very clear ideas and examples to make your answer very strong. Then the last one is link. So, students, you have to always have a cultural connection with the target language. Okay, the cultural connection and your opinion. Okay, so it connects to it. You know what? It connects the examiner to your text. For example, if as I'm an IB examiner, I always find some cultural connections of my students with the text. What cultural connections they are going to put through in their text. That is very important. Whatever you're writing, there should be some cultural connections in your text. Okay. This is what we have. And then let's go to the tone, register, and audience. So in paper one, this depends on how you write is just as important as what you write and who you are writing to. The main is who you are writing to. For choosing the correct text type, this is the main. Who you are writing to. For example, if you're writing to the principal, then it cannot be a blog, right? It has to be a formal email. So, who you are writing, the audience decides your text type, okay, in paper one. Therefore, and then the audience also decides what tone you're going to use, whether it is informal or formal. Here for formal, like to the teacher, the principal, to an unknown person, we are going to use formal. To the director, to to any uh, higher post, you're writing a letter. Of course, we're going to use formal. Okay, and informal includes your friends, classmates, family, your students' community, to the students' union that you're going to write is an informal text type. So what student, you must remember to use polite language in formal writing, friendly and relaxed tone in informal writing, and as I've already told you, do not mix tu and usted. Either it can be tu or it can be usted to the audience. The audience, either it can be tu or it can be usted. It can never be tu and usted together. Okay? So going ahead, so here we have some vocabulary boosters. So give emphasis on your opinions. Always remember in your conclusion, add opinions, add advantages, disadvantages. So connectors. For SL students, you have to use high level connectors. And for ab initio, you can use connectors, but as per your level. As you are beginners, you need not worry about using high level connectors. But SL students, connectors are very important, and idiomatic expressions as well. Okay. So wide range of vocabulary for both the levels. You can definitely use synonyms, and do not use the same vocabulary in all the sentences and in all the paragraphs, please. So you have to use a synonym of it. Try to find out the synonym of that vocabulary. So this means that you have to use wide range of vocabulary and use synonyms always. Okay, always use synonyms. So, and the common mistakes that you can avoid are choosing the wrong text type. As you know that this would end up in having zero in your conceptual, straight away zero in conceptual understanding. You will lose marks over there. No mixing of tu and usted, no paragraphing. If you are choosing a text type, do not just write in one paragraph. No, it doesn't create good impression. Always divide the paragraph: introduction, body, conclusion. Always divide your text type into at least 4 paragraphs, but within the word limit. Okay, for ab initio students, you can divide into 3 paragraphs because it is 150 words. For SL students, as it is 250 to 400 words, you can divide your paragraph into 4. And repetition of words is not acceptable, let me tell you. And repetition of paragraph is also not acceptable. If you have run out of your vocabulary, do not repeat the paragraph, please. Okay, this would lead to negative impression and you can end up in getting less marks. Okay, and as I've already told you, do not ignore any task. Okay, whatever the question has been asked, whatever it is asking you to do, please do write that. You have ample of time. You have 1 hour and you have 1 hour 15 minutes. So you can think and do not ignore. Okay. And what I can suggest you is when you get your question paper and when you decide what question to write, so first make some rough work at the end of your answer script. Make some rough work. Okay. Just write rough work on the top and make some rough work, like create a mind map. You must be getting 5 minutes of reading time. In that 5 minutes of reading time, you can definitely decide what you need to write, right? So after, when you start writing, after your reading time is given, so create a mind map at the end of the page. For example, social media, if the question comes about social media, create a mind map. Like, what are the advantages, bullet points you're going to write, so that while writing, you might forget what points you would have decided to write during your reading time. Okay, so after reading time, you can jot down those bullet points, that what are the points you're going to write in your text. Okay, so, and you know that paper 1, of course, is not difficult. It is predictable. So you have to master the structure, master the vocabulary, okay, grammar, connectors, expressions, and you will get 7. Okay, is that so? And Well, thank you so much for listening to me. And if you have any questions, you can definitely ask me.